I took this job not realizing what it meant. Every Steam game this poor sucker ever bought? How was I supposed to know I had to hold myself to it? The boys in finance said my funds were frozen until the job's done. And boy, what a job it was. An uphill battle for sure. Death Stranding to start? Jeez, I almost gave up right then and there. Rabbids next? Who knows what hell's waiting for me next time? And then, she came across my desk. Telltale's fallen on some rough times lately. Maybe it was the nostalgia of the old Walking Dead games that caught me. All I know is this is my next game.
Huh? Yeah.
What are you doing?
Are
you making one of those YouTube videos?
Yeah.
Well, dinner's ready.
Oh, what's for dinner?
Pasta, your favorite.
Oh, okay. Alright. Thank you.
In your room.
Back in the early 2010s, Telltale Games had made a bit of a name for themselves by developing episodic choose-your-own-story games, in the spirit of LucasArts' more imaginative titles. And after a string of success with Back to the Future and Jurassic Park games, they acquired the license to make 2 games based on popular comics at the time. One was this small indie comic about zombies or something, by some nobody, and the other was Bill Willingham's Fables, a dark and gritty comic whose premise is that all of the Grimm's Fables characters moved from the old country to New York City to live out their lives. However, due to most of them being anthropomorphic animals, they weren't very welcomed at the local bodegas. So the more animal characters have to use what's known as glamour, a magical substance that gives them the ability to transform their appearance. The game centers around Bigby Wolf, a rough and tough type who isn't really well liked because he's the big bad wolf. Oh! Bigby is tasked with being the sheriff around town and fixing things where necessary. I'm going to do my best to summarize the game, but since it's choose your own adventure, it's really up to you to see how the story unfolds. The game is broken into several episodes in which you're introduced to all the important Fable characters throughout the story, such as Ichabod Crane, Snow White, Mr. Toad, the Woodsman. Oh, also, fuck Toad. That jerk leans on his kid as a fucking shield for every time he gets in trouble, and TJ doesn't deserve it one bit. The story is kicked into action by the murder of a young fairy tale prostitute named Faith, based off of a fairy tale named Alaria? Alaria? Al-Ir-Li-Rao?
Alirau.
It's definitely not that.
Alirau?
There are several suspects off the bat, but it's your job to suss out who it could be. Bluebeard, the lord who's literally known for killing his wives, the woodsman, who was absolutely beating the hell out of Faith the night before, or Toad. He's not actually a suspect, I just really don't like him. Along the way, you must figure out who's behind the murder, following the trail of several conspiracies and sub-mysteries. The game is choose-your-own-adventure style, so how you play affects how the story goes for you. For example, in one episode, I got in a bar fight with a couple of trolls and almost ripped one of their arms off. I chose not to, and thank God, because in the literal next episode, I had to deliver the news that their sister was dead, and man, would that have been an awkward conversation. But then again, earlier in the game, I also chose to forcefully interrogate one of the fixers in full view of my companions. It's not just conversations either. At several different points, the game gives you several different paths that you can take to investigate other crime scenes. You can choose to search one crime scene over the other, or follow one suspect further, depending on the choice. The consequence of this, though, is that you could lose out on a lead later on, as you still end up visiting the second location that you opted to not go to first. However, when you pick a section that is less evidence heavy, well, you get a little annoyed that there was more direct evidence in the other option. Like when this asshole called me to say that there was a robbery and I had to choose between him and an implied dying person of interest, only for me to choose to help Toad and have him sitting there like, "Oh, hey, Bigby, I'm all hunky-dory here," and waste my time only to find out that the fixers beat him up. But that's just a few very brief examples. Things that you say or do in the first episode can come back in the final part of the game. It's really a story you need to pay attention to and weigh your decisions in the moment. Depending on the situation, the game gives you a window of time to react with one of several responses that vary from nice cop to, "Oh my god, this goes way past bad cop." The interesting thing is that depending on the emotions of the moment, you are given different amounts of time to make the decision. So if something is very stressful, you have less time to react and have to be more mindful. Which is hard when you have about 2 seconds to make a serious call like ripping someone's arm off or not.
I also have to say, I really like the mechanic of choice in this game, because they offer actual branching paths and consequences that you will feel as you play the game. There's actual stake in what you, as the player, choose to do. And that's reflected in your relationships with the other characters and how the world opens up to you.
The game also has several action sequences, but they mostly rely on button mashing or QuickTime events, like slamming Q when prompted to bring out the werewolf form. Outside of that, you're basically just playing a comic book.
Which is not a criticism, I promise. Actually, the cell shading and angular art style, combined with the pre-rendered backgrounds that contains interactable elements, really heightens the stylistic approach that they were going for and harkens back to the old LucasArts games that I mentioned earlier. The combination of the story, the ability to interact with the world, and the look of the game brings this incredible atmosphere together that makes you want more and more as soon as you're done playing the game. It's almost enough to make me go and read the comics, but I can't do that. I've got too many games to play. The Wolf Among Us is great in most regards, but really could benefit from a little bit of next-gen polish. So I would say it's probably an 8 out of 10.